That's what I'm learning about this love shit. So in love, you got to be willing. Well, in anything, first you got to love yourself. Love should start with you. I want to say that because if you don't love you, nothing else matters. If you don't love yourself, if you don't have high regard for yourself, if you don't hold yourself in high esteem, then no amount of esteem or love or gratitude or regard anybody else show you will ever be enough. All right, that's not to say that if somebody is not showing you any, that's the same as you not getting any, and you should be satisfied with that. But what I am saying is, no matter what you want from another person, if you don't already give that to yourself, nobody can give you enough. Nobody can show you enough. You're always going to have doubt, and that's going to damage anything that you try to build, because it won't be solid. So keep yourself solid inside. Keep yourself internally solid, and that means addressing your issues with yourself. That means holding yourself accountable. It means looking at yourself and seeing how you show up. Ask yourself, how do I show up in moments of conflict? How do I show up in moments of other people's joy and happiness? What kind of energy do I bring to a space? You know, am I bringing my negative energy into a space? You know, do people read me wrong? Are people misunderstanding my mood? Am I not conveying the right message subconsciously or subtly? Like, am I with my body language, with my facial expressions? How am I showing up? How are people receiving what I do? One of my most important things that I learned this year is that I learned it a long time ago, but it was reinforced to me this year, was that the way that I show up is not always the way that the way that I think I show up is not always the way that people receive me. So I might think that I'm talking like in a happy mood, or like, you know, just being nice and jovial, and, you know, somebody might read that as I'm being, you know, aggressive or excited, or, you know, I might just be in a moment of silence and thinking, and, you know, being, you know, cerebral about, you know, in my space. Somebody might internalize that and might misinterpret that and say, oh, you having a bad day, or you being negative, or you grumpy. And, you know, you got to be willing, one, to be able to accept that somebody's going to misunderstand how you feel in the moment, and then not hold them account, and then not hold it against them for misunderstanding you. So being able to still say, well, no, that wasn't really what I was feeling. That wasn't what I was going through. But, you know, if you're saying that that's what I was giving off, then I'll work on me, and I'll work on how I show up. But I was actually in a good mood. So being able to just not let somebody else's opinion of you make you doubt yourself, or make you question who you are. But you still got to be willing to listen. You still got to be willing to hear what people are saying. So, you know, because it's about more than just, you know, saying, hey, I'm showing up like this no matter what. I'm gonna be me no matter what. You realize real quick that you can piss a lot of people off just being yourself and not knowing it. So you got to be conscious of how you show up and how you present yourself, and still be able to remain confident that you are being authentically you. You know, being conscious of how you show up might change how you show up, might change who you like, how you behave or what you do, but I don't think it should. Like, I think you should be, like, if you know you're not in the best mood, it's okay to not be in the best mood. You don't have to fake it to make somebody else happy or to make somebody else comfortable. But at the same time, if somebody recognizes, hey, you need to relax a little bit, you need to chill, you should be mature enough to say, all right, you're right, let me work on me. You know, and remove yourself even from that space. You know, give yourself some space, give yourself some solitude, go sit down and think. One of my favorite things to do is to just be in silence and just think. You get so much perspective when you're quiet. In solitude, like, I wouldn't suggest you try to do this when you're around people. They might look at you and say, you know, hey, this guy's antisocial. So, I find it easier to be silent and to express that and to get that out in a moment when I'm by myself. That's just me though. You know. One thing that I will say is in a relationship, like I was saying earlier, what you willing to give out, you got to be willing to give out what you want to receive. So if you in a situation where you when you encouraging a person and you giving them love and you loving on them and you supporting them, love is a weird thing because you'll overextend yourself in love and not realize that's what you're doing. And before you know it, formed a whole dependency on this person telling you that, the stuff that you're doing for them, you need them, like they need you, like they appreciate it. And you'll never get really the appreciation that you might yearn for. So you got to be real careful with, in a relationship, with being codependent. Especially if you was like a single, like you had a single mother, or your mom was, you had like some instability growing up. You might be a lot more prone to overextending yourself and giving people more of you than you really can handle, and taking out more than you really can handle. So you got to be real careful with how much of your energy and how much of your love you give away. And what I'm realizing too is, because my mother, I had 5 brothers and sisters growing up, and I was the oldest. And my mom had to work, or she had to, hustle. She had to get it how she got it in order to, keep us together, keep things working. And what that meant a lot of times is I'm with them by myself, or I'm watching over them, or I'm getting them to school or from school, and making sure that they return home safe. I'm responsible for them when my mother's not around. So it was a lot of responsibility very early, to the point where, in a lot of ways, I feel like I didn't have the childhood that I probably deserved. And so what that meant was, now that I'm a little older, some of the things that I do is tied to almost having no fun. So the things that I had fun with are the things that I like to do when I was a child. So I like riding my bike. I like playing my little video game. I like read. I like hanging out and talking and communicating with people and, being sociable. Things that I did as a kid that, when I took these responsibilities were presented to me, I had to sacrifice these things. So sacrificing became sacrificing my happiness and my improvement for the greater good became like the thing that I do. And I realized that how those things can affect you when you get older. I became a business owner and an entrepreneur, and a husband and a father. I became these things, and I still had this thing running in my background where my happiness had to be sacrificed to make sure everybody else was good, right? So as a father, that's what we taught. As a leader, that's what you taught. As as a man, that's what you taught. You have to give up your happiness to make sure that the people that you are around and that depend on you, that you there and you provide some stability for. And as a child, what that meant and what that looked like was, my mom had to go to work. She was working overnight at a job where she was working the second shift. So she at work 3 to 11 or something like that. So 3 to 10 or something like that. So what that meant was, by the time we get home from school, either dinner was made, or I'm making it, or I'm preparing it. She put it in the slow cooker or something like that. I'm preparing it. They eating. I'm either getting them dressed and getting them ready for bed, or making sure they wash their body and go to bed, or make sure that the house is clean, making sure that all of the things that you would have to do as a parent to get children ready. I was responsible for those things. Those children were my siblings. They were in my care. And how that affected me now is I'm much more prepared as a father. So that gave me some positivity that came out of that. The other thing that it did was it forced me to become dependent on being the stability. So I sometimes don't know how to turn off the part where I'm taking care of everybody else. I don't know how to turn the part off where I'm, a dad or a big brother and just be myself. I find myself doing those things when I'm alone. Or I'm around people like my age, when I'm around my kids. Just being a dad is one thing, just being a husband is one thing, but like, you still got to be you. So I'm only able to be me when I'm by myself or when I'm with my friends. And I would love to be me with my children and not just be a dad, but I don't know, they're not old enough yet, I think. So they still need me to be like that guy and like that support system and that boundary so that they know where too far is. So I think that's what one of the roles of a dad is to be a boundary for what too far is. So when the child go too far, like you want to pour his bowl of cereal, but you get the big bowl because he don't understand portion size. Or when he get like when he gets he wants to go on the big slide down the hill on the snow hill, but he might not be ready for it. He climb all the way up there and realize how tall it is. So I tell him go for it, but you got to realize what you setting yourself up for, right? So just understand the boundaries. I think that's important for a dad to do. I think that's one of the most important things for a father to do. So, but back to what I was saying. When you in that situation and you have to go through those things as a young person, then you get older and you realize, oh, look at what I gave up. I gave up time with my friends. I gave up time developing certain things during certain developmental stages. To be with my younger siblings and to take care of them. And realistically, that's what you're supposed to do. What I did was what you're supposed to do. And I think I was the only person that had, in my friend group anyway, in my neighborhood, they had like a whole bunch of siblings, younger siblings. And I had a unique situation because like we were very unstable. So we moved around a lot. And then different things like that. So it developed into me being very adaptable. So I'm a little bit different, I know, than a lot of people because I can adapt. Things don't bother me as much. Things don't piss me off as fast because I've experienced a lot of loss and a lot of, setbacks and things that, just things that didn't work out the way you wanted them to. And I think that produces a lot of resilience. That's something that you can do to get yourself, one of the things that you can do when you realize things not going to go your way, instead of getting upset about it, is to just create a solution in the moment. Always be thinking of a solution. Always be thinking of a way of figuring out how to, improve a situation or make yourself better or get yourself prepared to do something different from what you're doing right now. Because in the future, I tell my kids this. I was telling my daughter this the other day. The resilience that you build now, you won't see the results of it now. You won't see it until much, much, much later on, when you're a lot older. So if you don't build up the tolerance or build the muscle for certain things when you're young, then by the time you get a lot older, you won't have certain skill sets that's going to be essential for you to survive and to live. You got to be able to think critically. You got to be able to make good decisions. You got to be able to understand the difference between wants and needs. You got to be able to give yourself, sorry, it's quite loud. You got to be able to give yourself patience and not rush yourself. And I think that you need to develop faster. You need to grow up faster. So have discernment. Be able to give yourself room to grow and room to make mistakes and not feel guilty for it. Not hold yourself hostage to a bad feeling. Or to the repercussions of a wrong decision. And you learn all of that through experience. So there's gonna be certain things that your mother and your father and your parents can't teach you, but the muscle memory that you get while you're young, building those skill sets, provide some data and provide some experience for you when the things that your mother and father can't teach you present themselves. And those things are important. So always be thinking, always be learning, and always be solving. Always be solving a problem. Always be creating a solution for something. And that speak to, a lot of different things, but, keep yourself sharp and keep yourself humble and keep yourself honest. Those are the things that I learned growing up. Those are the things that I learned throughout the people. Those are the things that I learned from the people throughout my life who have helped me and who have guided me, and through the sages and the wise people that have given me, information and given me lessons. So I'll talk a little bit more about it later. But now I got to get ready to go do my business. All right.